Yoga is more popular than ever, but what is being taught and practiced in many of the commercial studios and yoga festivals around the world bears little resemblance to the rich tradition that has its roots in the ancient culture of India. When most people think of the more ancient and spiritual aspects of yoga, the colorful Hindu gods and goddesses like Shiva, Hanuman, and Kali may first come to mind. But the roots of yoga go much deeper, back to a time when people worshiped the elements of nature: the sun, moon, fire, earth, air, and water. A shamanic culture in which rishis, literally those who see, communed with the elemental gods and nature spirits through elaborate rituals and use of the entheogenic plant brew known as Soma. The first evidence of ancient yoga dates back to the pre-Vedic Indus Valley civilization, dated between 3300 and 1300 BC. At the Harappa archaeological site in modern-day Pakistan, numerous small figures in yogic postures were discovered, evidence that some form of physical yoga was being practiced at least 4,000 years ago. Other artifacts from the Indus Valley civilization offer clues to a connection between yoga and shamanism. This example, known as the Pashupati seal, depicts a shamanic figure with 3 faces and buffalo horns, clearly seated in a yogic posture and surrounded by various animals and undeciphered symbols. Some scholars believe this figure to be a prototype of the Hindu god Shiva, who is considered the first yogi and lord of animals. The concept of shape-shifting is common throughout most shamanic traditions. The shaman accesses the power of various animals by assuming their form in costume or in vision. The element of shape-shifting is evident even in the yoga practice today, with postures like downward-facing dog, scorpion, and cobra forming a significant part of the modern postural yoga lexicon. Another artifact from the Indus Valley depicts the Pashupati yogi shaman figure kneeling before what is perhaps the earliest depiction of the plant spirit, Soma. The Rig Veda, the oldest Sanskrit text dating to at least 2500 BC, describes the rishis, dreadlock mystics who drink the legendary entheogenic plant brew Soma for healing, spiritual revelation, and communion with the gods. Pay reverence to King Soma, born the sovereign ruler of the plants. We have drunk Soma and become immortal. We have attained the light the gods discovered. These glorious drops that give me freedom have I drunk. Let the drops I drink preserve me from disease. Make me shine bright like fire produced by friction. Give us clearer sight and make us better. This Soma flows like gladdening oil for him who wears the braided locks. It covers the naked and heals all who are sick. The blind man sees, the lame man steps forth. Let those who seek find what they seek. Let them receive the treasure. Let him find what was lost before. Let him push forward, the man of truth. In the Rig Veda, Soma is the word used for the plant, the brew, and the plant spirit, a trinity repeated a world away in the South American Amazon, where the word ayahuasca is used simultaneously for a particular vine, the tea made from the vine, and the spirit that's contacted by ingesting it. In their Soma-induced revelations, the Vedic rishis received hymns that invoked the forces of nature for healing, insight, and guidance, much like the chants of other shamanic traditions. Flow onward, Soma, in thy stream, begetter of the sage's speech. These hymns became the source for the yogic mantras and for the ancient Indian singing tradition of Drupad, which bears a striking similarity in both form and function to the Icaros of the South American shaman. It's clear that at the time of the Vedic period, the ritual use of Soma was the primary way of experiencing a direct connection to the divine. The term entheogen has been given to psychoactive substances like Soma and ayahuasca that awaken the divine within. In hatha yoga, which develops after the Vedic period, the breath becomes the entheogen. Pranayama, the practice of controlling the breath, often combined with visualizations and mantras, becomes the primary means by which the practitioner purifies themselves to achieve health, spiritual transformation, and union with God. In the development of these practices, the external ritual sacrifices of the early pre-Vedic and Vedic period become the internal alchemical rituals of hatha yoga. A clear example of this appears in the Bhagavad Gita, dated around 2,500 years ago, in which the god Krishna instructs his disciple Arjuna on yoga. Still others offer as sacrifice the outgoing breath into the incoming breath, while some offer the incoming breath into the outgoing breath. All these knowers of sacrifice are cleansed of their impurities as a result of such performances. The Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, considered a seminal yoga text, mentions the use of entheogens as a way to attain mystical knowledge and powers, known as siddhis, but it places far greater emphasis on meditation and the performance of austerities as a way of achieving the same results, suggesting a movement away from the use of plant entheogens in favor of other, more immediately available and perhaps safer methods. The mystic powers are attained by practices performed in previous births, or by special plants, mantra repetition, asceticism, or by meditation. The attainment of esoteric knowledge and supernatural powers, including astral travel, telepathy, shape-shifting, and influence over others, is a common theme throughout all shamanic traditions, including hatha yoga. Patanjali, the author of the Yoga Sutra, is himself a shamanic figure. One origin story tells of the cosmic serpent, Ananta, being born on earth as the sage Patanjali in order to help ease the suffering of humanity by teaching them yoga. Patanjali is called the jungle physician and is depicted as half man, half serpent, an image that resonates with the archetype of the shape-shifting healer mystic found all over the world across the ages. By the time of the medieval period, the practices of hatha yoga have been fully developed and now include postures, breathwork, and extensive cleansing practices intended to strengthen and purify the body, forming it into an alchemical vessel for spiritual transformation. The texts of hatha yoga describe the body as a microcosm of the universe, home to the 5 elements of earth, air, fire, water, and ether, situated in the energetic centers called chakras. In some texts, the spinal column is the holy Mount Meru, the center of the universe, analogous to the axis mundi or the tree of life in other mystic traditions that serves as a bridge between the earth and the divine realms. The spine is Mount Meru and the bones are the major mountains. The fire of time is at the root. The disk of the moon is at the skull. Other heavenly bodies are said to exist like this. The wise should practice yoga on them. Even the fabled nectar of immortality, Soma, has now found its way into the body. It is said to be produced by the moon in the head, continually dripping into the fiery sun in the belly, thus shortening the lifespan of the average person. The yogi, however, strives to preserve this nectar by practicing inverted postures and engaging physio-energetic locks in the body, thus ensuring longevity and spiritual liberation. Just as fire does not go out as long as there is firewood, nor a lamp die as long as the wick has oil, so the spirit does not desert the body that is full of Soma. Other hatha yoga practices focus on awakening Kundalini, the serpent power that lies dormant at the base of the spine, that when awakened, catalyzes a process of psycho-spiritual transformation. The serpent plays a central role in hatha yoga, and as in other shamanic traditions, it represents transformation and rebirth. When the sleeping Kundalini awakens, then all the chakras and all the energy blocks are pierced through. The spine becomes a main road for the passage of life force, and the mind becomes free of all attachments, and death is evaded. Following its peak in the medieval period, Hatha Yoga falls into a kind of dark age, looked down upon by mainstream authorities and practiced mostly by small groups of outliers living on the edge of conventional society. By the time of the 19th century, Hatha Yoga is viewed by many as no more than a cultural curiosity, associated with naked sadhus, fakirs, and charlatans. In the early 20th century, T. Krishnamacharya, a yoga scholar and practitioner, began revitalizing serious interest in Hatha Yoga through demonstrations and publications sponsored by the King of Mysore in an effort to promote Indian culture. He became most well known outside of India as the teacher of the teachers who brought Hatha Yoga to Europe and America, including B.K.S. Iyengar, Indra Devi, Patabi Joyce, and his own son, T.K.V. Desikachar. At the age of 16, Krishnamacharya had a pivotal mystical experience when he fell into a trance and received the content of a long-lost yoga text by his ancestor Natamuni. Inspired by this revelation, he later spent 7 years at the base of Mount Kailash learning yoga and healing arts from his guru, Ramamohana Brahmachari. When his training was complete, his guru told him that he must return to the city, start a family, and teach yoga. It's in this move from ascetic to householder that Krishnamacharya emerges as a model for the modern Hatha Yogi, a serious practitioner with wife and family engaged with society. He further broke the mold by being one of the first to teach Westerners and women, and adapted the Hatha Yoga practices for modern people with family and work obligations. While he's largely responsible for the spread of Hatha Yoga to the West, much of what Krishnamacharya taught has been lost in translation. Like the ancient yogis before him, Krishnamacharya considered the breathing practices most important and the key to Hatha Yoga's healing power. In his 1934 text, Yoga Makaranda, the Nectar of Yoga, he speaks of the importance of pranayama in accessing the healing potential of yoga and the dangers of ignoring the suggestions of the ancestors. Pranayama is the most important tool. Our ancestors followed these useful instructions and so lived as long as they wished and served as a support for the people of this world, and even today exist as famous and enlightened souls. But now, day by day, we keep destroying the techniques of pranayama. If one wants a cure from some disease, even supposing that there are many medicines, for the disease to be cured by these medicines, it is essential that there should be a proper flow of prana in our bodies without any obstructions. Today, we're faced with an epidemic of physical, mental, and spiritual dis-ease in cities all around the world. Modern medicine has yet to offer an effective solution to this problem, and there has been a growing interest in shamanic practices and plant medicines by people seeking alternative, natural forms of healing. And while many people have had profound experiences with entheogens like ayahuasca and peyote, the feelings of well-being and deep connection often fade as they return to their regular lives and leave them once again wanting. It's becoming clear that we must find more sustainable ways to heal ourselves. Thanks to teachers like Krishnamacharya, who preserved and shared the shamanic technology of hatha yoga, as it was passed down by the ancient jungle doctors and mystics who refined it over generations, there is another way. Modern scientific research is now discovering that the physical and meditative practices of hatha yoga release chemicals produced in the brain that are responsible for feelings of peace, well-being, and deep connection. This is the Soma that the ancient yogis sang of in their hymns and later learned how to access through the practices of hatha yoga. These practices, passed down for generations for the benefit of all people, offer a holistic and integrated way to achieve physical, mental, and spiritual healing, to in effect become one's own shaman, using only the natural resources of one's own body, breath, and mind.